A very good morning and welcome to the news at 10 on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, live from Abuja. I am Muslima Sholebo.
And I'm Musbat and Wahal. Thanks a lot for joining us. The headlines.
Nigeria says it will implement report of tripartite committee on the partial closure of its land borders.
Nigeria beefs off surveillance of its frontiers to contain spread of COVID-19 as World Health Organization commends speedy response to index case in Nigeria.
National Assembly to criminalize casualization of workers engaged beyond 6 months.
NOA drums support for use of Freedom of Information Act.
Now let's get started with regional integration matters. And Nigeria says it will implement the report of the tripartite committee comprising Nigeria, Niger, and the Republic of Benin on the partial closure of the nation's land borders as soon as the report is received.
President Muhammadu Buhari made this known to the outgoing president of the ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development, Bashir Mamman Ifo, and his successor, Dr. George Nana Donkoro, at an audience in Abuja. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
President Muhammadu Buhari told his guests that the partial closure of the land borders had given Nigeria a number of insights. He said apart from saving millions of dollars as a result of the ban on food imports, it also became clear that the country has indeed achieved food security. The president explained that the importation of drugs and proliferation of small arms and light weapons threatening the security and stability of the country have also been curtailed. President Buhari thanked the outgoing president of the ECOWAS Bank, Mamman Ifo, for the improvements recorded in his 8-year tenure and urged his successor to build on those achievements. The outgoing bank chief informed the president that the ECOWAS Bank had been transformed from a loss-making to profit-making institution. He appreciated ECOWAS member states for their commitment to the bank, which doubled to $1.4 billion. The incoming president, Dr. George Danko, thanked President Buhari and indeed Nigerians for supporting his emergence as the new chief of the financial institution. He gave credit to President Muhammadu Buhari's economic recovery and growth plan, he said brought about economic stability and food security in the country. Dr. Danko pledged total commitment to partnering with Nigeria towards enhancing socio-economic development in the country and the rest of the West African sub-region. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
On a bilateral note, President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed optimism that stronger diplomatic ties with Hellenic Republic and Cuba will boost Nigeria's ongoing effort at diversifying the economy, improving global competitiveness, and repositioning the country for a greater future.
The president stated this while exchanging views with ambassadors of the two countries in Nigeria. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports on this and other engagement with the ambassador of Equatorial Guinea.
It was a highly befitting diplomatic welcome for the new envoys on arrival at the forecourt of the Nigerian seat of government, perhaps for the first time in their diplomatic careers. The ambassadors who presented their letters of credence to President Muhammadu Buhari were Monsieur Ioannis Plotas of Hellenic Republic, otherwise called Greece, Clara Margarita Pludo Escandel of the Republic of Cuba, and Francisco Mangue of Equatorial Guinea. Exchanging views with the Hellenic Republic envoy, President Muhammadu Buhari said a long-standing diplomatic and business relations with the country will be strengthened for mutual benefit. He believes that most global challenges will need collective efforts for lasting solutions. Ambassador Plotas takes pride in the business ties between Nigeria and Greece, recalling that about 50,000 Nigerians were employed at some point in the country's history by a flour mills company from his country. He told President Buhari that he will continue to support and project Nigeria across Europe at every opportunity while sharing its expertise in agriculture with institutions and individuals in the country. Talking to the ambassador of Cuba to Nigeria, Clara Escandel, President Buhari said the cultural similarities between both countries should serve as impetus for working together, especially on trade, saying Cuba's efforts at developing medicine and engineering could provide the springboard. President Buhari appreciated the support Nigeria received at international fora from Cuba for many years, promising that the bilateral relations would be strengthened. The Cuban envoy, Clara Escandel, told President Buhari that the history of Cuba will be incomplete without Nigeria and Nigerians. Nigerians, she said, played great roles in the development of our country. She described President Buhari's personal venture, integrity, and voice at the United Nations General Assembly in projecting Nigeria as outstanding. At the ceremony, President Buhari assured the ambassador of Equatorial Guinea, Francisco Mangui, that Nigeria is taking measures towards securing the Gulf of Guinea following his meeting with President Theodore Obiang Nguema Basogo. Ambassador Mangui expressed worry that the challenges of security in the Gulf of Guinea had persisted. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has received in audience a special envoy of President Patrice Talon of the neighboring Benin Republic. Details of their discussions held behind closed doors were not made public. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
And from the National Assembly, the Senate is considering a bill that seeks to repeal the Nuclear Safety and Radiation Protection Act of number 19 of 1995 and to reenact the Nuclear Safety, Security and Safeguards Act.
This bill, which has passed through second reading, is aimed at re-establishing the Nigerian Nuclear Regulatory Authority and also introduce the production of electricity through nuclear energy. Here's National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwa with details.
It was the first plenary of the week, and the first bill on the other paper for consideration was the bill that seeks to move Nigeria away from a 25-year-old law on Nigeria's Nuclear Safety and Radiation Protection Act. It basically seeks to ensure adequate safety and protection of Nigeria's nuclear activities and to utilize it for electricity generation and for tackling security challenges. Deputy Leader of the Senate, Senator Ajayi Borofis, sponsored the bill.
This bill, when passed, will strengthen the overall Nigerian security mechanism using the nation's nuclear assets. It will also ensure that the gains on investments so far made by Nigeria on the nuclear sector are optimally harnessed.
We will suggest that the chairman of the board be Mr. President himself, yes. And also anything importation or everything nuclear related must have the approval of Mr. President through the Office of the National Security Advisor.
Second reading taken, and the bill is referred to the Senate Committee on Petroleum Upstream and Science and Technology to report back within 4 weeks.
That bill gave way for the second reading of the Nigerian Army University Bill Establishment Bill, sponsored by Senator Ali Dume. Thereafter, President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, granted audience to the newly inaugurated chairman and members of the National Assembly Service Commission, during which the Commission promised to improve on the workforce of the National Assembly staff. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
Still from the National Assembly, the House of Representatives says casualization of workers by multinational companies based in Nigeria should not be allowed to continue as it is very exploitative.
The House is therefore said to criminalize casualization of workers who have been engaged beyond 6 months. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports.
employees in core areas of operation.
They have taken advantage of lacuna in the Labor Act.
In the oil sector, the calculation there is more than the employed staff. They will put in 20 years, 10 years, 15 years, then after some time, will be laid off without any benefit.
The bill went through second reading and was referred to House Committee on Labour for further legislative action. Plenary also adopted a motion on the need for the Ecological Fund Office to urgently embark on erosion control in Imo State, as moved by Representative Ugonna Uzurigbo, and the motion from Representative Armayau Abdulkadir on the need to address erosion in parts of Katsina State in view of the economic losses suffered by the people, who are also faced with security challenge.
The damages being caused to the soil surface in the communities have made it extremely difficult for the dwellers in those communities to engage in farming.
Meanwhile, House members have called on authorities to invest on pharmaceutical research to bring to an end the country's dependence on imported drugs to avoid exploitation and risks associated with outsourcing from foreign firms, as moved by Representative Ida Husa from the National Assembly. Lami Ali, NTA News.
Away from the National Assembly, let's turn attention to health matters, especially COVID-19, and the Minister of Environment, Mohammed Mahmoud Abubakar, says the federal government will deploy health workers and volunteers to Nigeria's frontiers to beef up surveillance as part of measures to contain spread of COVID-19. Onengie Fineface reports.
The containment of the coronavirus will not only be multi-sectoral but also easier and more effective. I hereby charge environmental health officers in states and local government to engage butchers to ensure they do not handle, slaughter, dress, sell, and prepare meat originating from wild animals or sick livestock which have died from unknown causes.
As precautionary measure, the Minister of Environment emphasized caution in handling raw meat, regular hand washing, and healthy lifestyles among Nigerians to avoid contacting the virus. In Abuja, Onengie Fineface, NTA News.
And we have an update from Lagos on COVID-19. The Chinese national who arrived Murtala Mohammed International Airport Monday on board Ethiopian Airlines and displayed symptoms of coronavirus has tested negative. This information came on the heels of a press briefing held in Lagos, where the Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, announced that so far, only one index case of COVID-19 has been identified, while 41 persons on board the aircraft that conveyed the index case have been identified and are currently on the watch. Joy Ken Abapoya has details of this.
For 5 days now, the index patient of coronavirus has been undergoing management in isolation at the mainland hospital Yaba, and the Lagos State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, says his condition is mild to moderate with no tendency of major complications.
His breathing is fine. He has a slight cough, but he's comfortable. He's in one of our newly refurbished isolation units. We will keep him there until our tests show that he is no longer secreting the virus. If we show that the viral presence is gone down to zero, then we wait another few days, because sometimes it can go down to zero and come up again. As long as you're secreting the virus, you can transmit it. So we just want to make sure that when we release him, that he is truly negative and not contagious.
Professor Abayomi also disclosed that of the 159 persons aboard the aircraft, 35 are unreachable due to provision of wrong information, while the rest have since returned to their base outside Nigeria, and the World Health Organization has been notified. The hotel the patient visited on arrival has been decontaminated, with 6 of its staff on self-isolation and under close observation by health officials.
If you're flying into this country from anywhere in the world, It is in the interest of public safety, and it is in your interest that you give us the right information. We're not trying to delay you anywhere, but if you fall sick, it's important that we're there to help you. And it's also important that you're not in a position to spread the infection to other people.
The Lagos State government is appealing to Nigerians to maintain personal and environmental hygiene at all times and use the emergency numbers in case of any corona-like symptoms. In Lagos, Joy Ken Abakbuya, NTA News.
The news at 10 is broadcast live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, Abuja. We have more news to come. NOA drums support for use of Freedom of Information Act. Join us for more after the break.
Advertising your goods and services on the right channel gives you an edge over your competitors. NTA News 24 has all the platforms for your target audience. The station is on DSTV channel 419, GoTV channel 46, StarTimes channel 101, and Free TV channel 703. With our digital format and wide range, we can reach your customers in next to no time. We are eager to promote your business, goods, and services. So, partner with us for a very rewarding business experience. For more information, please call Henry on 0803-379-0884 or visit our office at NTA Headquarters, Area 11, Garki, Abuja. NTA News 24. News and more news.
It's good to have you back with us. Now, the World Health Organization has commended the government of Ogun State for speedily responding to the first case of coronavirus in the state. The head of African Regional Office, WHO, Professor Bola Olayinka, who gave a commendation during a visit to the governor, Dapo Abiodun in Abeokuta, said the World Health Organization is working with an
Coronavirus has proliferated around the globe over the past week. Current statistics indicate that about 57 countries, including Nigeria, are now trying to salvage its outbreak. Nigerians' alarm over potential global pandemic informed the visit by the World Health Organization and National Center for Disease Control, NCDC, to Ogun State to brief the governor on the technical guidelines on how to control coronavirus.
The key thing is rapid containment. What do I mean by containment? Being able to have a high level of index of suspicion to know that this might be a suspected case, to isolate that patient while other things are happening. And I think Ogun State did well in this.
The governor, Prince Dapo Abiodun, maintained that the 40 contacts established currently in isolation centers have not shown any symptoms of coronavirus.
I'm sure you're aware that we set up emergency telephone lines that our epidemiologists will be answering so that people can call. One of the things we realize is that we must step up this advocacy.
People are therefore enjoined not to panic, but maintain personal hygiene and visit government-owned hospital rather than engage in self-medication.
In the meantime, the Buhari Media Organization, BMO, has equally recognized President Muhammadu Buhari's prompt response to the discovery of a coronavirus positive patient in Nigeria and the measures taken to prevent the spread. While applauding the president for his proactiveness, the Buhari Media Organization, BMO, however, berated the People's Democratic Party, PDP, for what it describes as a heinous and callous attempt to politicize the issue. In a statement signed by its chairman, Niyi Akinshiju, and Secretary Kasidi Madueke, BMO says PDP was trying to politicize the entry of the disease in the country at a time when most developed countries around the world and the World Health Organization were commending Nigeria's efforts for its proactive measures and high level of preparedness.
The Catholic Bishops' Conference of Nigeria holding in Abuja has a very interesting theme. The Word of God, a lamp to my feet and a light to my path.
Musba, you can say that again. The theme, however, captures critical social issues bordering on the development of the country, such as peace and security, unity, poverty, and the role of the church formed the major focus. State House correspondent Jide Onifade tells you more about this.
Clergies at the event, which includes the Archbishop of Abuja, Ignatius Kaigama, stressed on the need for Nigerians to have cordial relationship with God and a peaceful coexistence among one another. 20 days in notes would defeat evil and extremism. As he says, there's the need to also work together to eradicate poverty, diseases, unnecessary deaths, and other issues affecting the people.
Millions are displaced and we don't seem to care. Something is wrong. We haven't yet cultivated that spirit of patriotism, that spirit of oneness. We may declare we are one Nigeria, but many things divide us. Ethnic interests, political interests, and worst of all, religious interests. Something must be done to repair the damage that has been done.
The Archbishop observes that so much is happening, calling for more patriotic Nigerians to come forth and help address these issues. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo was among dignitaries that graced the opening mass of the first 2020 plenary meeting and a dinner at the end of the second day. His presence was described as a demonstration of his love and solidarity at all times with Nigerians, including the church.
When you are with us like this and we are suffering, we feel we are together. But when there is a gap, we feel there is an insensitivity. We need to have access to our leaders. We need to have access to the president, to the vice president, to the ministers. They need to be closer to the people that elected them.
Archbishop Kaigama said the habit of condemning political leaders and people in positions of authority was harmful to society and inimical to its growth. He advised the people to always pray for those in position of power and the country. The conference is scheduled to end on Thursday this week. In Abuja, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
The Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, has re-emphasized that the visa-on-arrival policy of the federal government will not in any way compromise the nation's security.
Speaking at an interactive session with the Senate Joint Committee on Interior and Judiciary, the minister said, on the contrary, the policy strengthens the country's capacity to monitor visitors. National Assembly correspondent Vivian Idekwefor tells us more.
The Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, alleged fears raised by the legislators on internal security, ECOWAS protocol, and provisions of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Nigeria, he says, has the capacity to deal with matters arising from the visa-on-arrival policy, which is more secure as it is biometric-driven.
What the e-visa means is that when you get here and you take your biometric, you are already on the platform of Interpol. You must understand this, and also the attendant political economy of the guerrilla war that is being fought, and how people like you and agencies like yours should be given adequate funding. Our duty is likely to attempt in the past and present it to the Senate.
The visa-on-arrival policy is part of reforms adopted by the federal government in conformity with global practice. From the National Assembly, Vivian Idekwefor, NTA News.
Now to legal matters. A federal high court sitting in Abuja has dismissed an application by former Boko Haram spokesman Ali Sanda Konduga seeking 500 million naira in compensation for his detention in the custody of the Department of State Security, DSS.
Justice Aonle Chikere wrote that he was kept in custody for his protection. Olabode Arewa has that report.
Delivering judgment on the fundamental rights enforcement suit filed by Ali Sanda Konduga against the DSS and the federal government, the court held that the applicant's detention by the DSS was not illegal, since he himself had deposed to an affidavit that was attacked by a mob in 2016. Justice Aonle Chikere held that keeping Konduga in protective custody by a security agency did not constitute a crime. The court accordingly dismissed his application.
We are going to look at the ruling, study the intricacies of the ruling, and know the outcome, the step we are going to take next.
The court decided that his detention was not illegal and that he was aware of why he was being detained. That's just what the court held.
The applicant had dragged the DSS and the Attorney General of the Federation to court, claiming he was detained for 3 additional years after he had served a 3-year prison term for criminal intimidation. He said although the government had claimed that it wanted to use him as a witness in a terrorism case against some individuals, he was never called to testify. In Abuja, Olabodarewa, NTA News.
You're still watching the news at 10 on the NTA. We'll pause now for some commercial break, but when the news returns...
The Nigeria Customs Service steps up, launching its e-border operations.
This is NTA News 24 broadcasting from Abuja.